right, let's see who tunes in today. Hello everyone. Howdy everybody. Dr. Matt here with Chalk. I am your friendly neighborhood Chalk formulator and chief scientific officer. And yeah, what's up everybody? Oh, hey there, John Pappas. How you guys doing? Hello from Scotland, Wiser Woke, very cool. Hello from Austin. So what are we talking about today? Obviously we're talking about ashwagandha because we just launched our ashwagandha a couple days ago. 600 milligram maximum dose organic extract backed by now 14. At the time of bottling it was only 12 and now it's 14 clinical studies, soon to be 15 in the next few months here. This ashwagandha, which is an organic sensorial multi-patented extract, is the best one we think that we can possibly find because, again, not only is it organically grown, but it has a huge amount of clinical research behind it. So ashwagandha is an incredibly versatile herb. I've got over here on my monitor, an overview of all the different clinical studies, and I'm going to go through as many of these in the coming days as we can. Ones involving healthy inflammation response, healthy cardiovascular function, healthy muscle building, which is what we're going to talk about today. This guy right here. That's right, strength training. We've got research on this particular ashwagandha extract for mood support. We've got research for a number of things, and we'll get into all that soon enough. Also cognitive performance. And if you're interested in the research, the couple studies that they've done on it for cognitive performance, for focus, mood, memory, check out the one that we did yesterday. That one's pretty awesome. Yeah. Okay, so talking about three things today: ashwagandha, cortisol, and muscle building. Those three things. What is the connection? So before I get into this article right here, this research on our ashwagandha extract and what it can do for muscle building, let's talk a little bit about cortisol, the stress hormone. So I've got a paper here, just basic physiology of cortisol. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that it talks about here. So cortisol is called cortisol because it's actually, comes from the adrenal cortex. The adrenal cortex is basically the outer portion of your adrenal glands. And your adrenal glands are called your adrenal glands because they sit on top of your kidneys. Ad means and on top of, above, and renal means kidney. So here's your kidney, here's your adrenal gland, right? So adrenal glands, your adrenal glands synthesize this stress hormone, cortisol, when it gets a signal from your brain, from your hypothalamus and pituitary, to do that, which is, when you get stressed out, your brain tells your adrenal gland, this thing right here on top of the kidneys, to then secrete various stress hormones like adrenaline and then also cortisol. So yes, cortisol because again, the outermost portion of the adrenal gland is called the adrenal cortex. Cortex is just usually something that's on the outside of something, So the cortex of the brain is the outermost layer of the brain, for example, right? The cortex of the adrenal gland is the outermost portion of the adrenal gland. So cortisol, adrenal cortex. What is good about cortisol? Well, what's good about your fight or flight response? It's there to save your life. If you're in the wilderness and you see a bear, got a smudge in my glasses here. If you're in the wilderness and you see a bear or a tiger or God knows what, then you want plenty of these stress hormones, adrenaline, cortisol in your body for as long as is necessary to make sure that you have this emergency energy that you need to save your life, to either run away from this thing or to fight it or to do whatever you can, right? So these stress hormones are in short bursts something that is meant to save your life. It's like that emergency, extra rocket fuel that you put into your spaceship, right? That's like super high octane. If you use too much of it, it'll burn out your engine. But if you gotta, get away from the bad guys, then obviously I like science fiction, but gotta get away from the bad guys, then, you put it in there. But cortisol, just look at it like this. These stress hormones are, corrosive, almost sort of sounds like cortisol, right? They're kind of corrosive to your system. They're very, very intense. And it's the kind of thing you don't want excess amounts of for very long. Same thing is true of glucose. Glucose is a wonderful thing. It is the primary fuel in your body. You need plenty of glucose, but if too much of it is in your blood, it'll start damaging your tissues, so it's all about how much is in there. Cortisol is some pretty intense stuff. So the metaphor I'd like to use though is that it's like this additional crazy intense fuel for your system that gives you this burst of energy, right? And it also helps to sort of reduce some inflammation in your system short term, turn the immune system down a little bit. You don't need your immune system causing a bunch of inflammation while you're fighting a tiger, right? But in the long term is very, very destructive to your system. So one thing interesting mentioned by this paper, you have cortisol receptors basically throughout your entire body. So cortisol, the authors claim, is able to affect nearly every organ system. Your nervous system, your immune system, cardiovascular system, respiratory system, reproductive system, very important, obviously, musculoskeletal system, which we'll get to, integumentary, so connective tissues, bones, all that too. Cortisol affects just about everything because you have cortisol receptors, also called glucocorticoid receptors, if you want to sound really smart about it, all over your body, every single place in your body. So what does cortisol actually do? Well, like I said, it's all about emergency energy, right? Let's see here if I can get this on here. Emergency energy, my little note right here. So it allows the body to stay on high alert. Yeah, high alert. So if you're thinking high alert, if you're somebody if you have a person perhaps who is sort of just like always a little bit keyed up and kind of has a hard time relaxing, it certainly is possible that that person may have not the best relationship with cortisol. On a technical level, what's really interesting is what cortisol does. In the presence of cortisol, muscle cells decrease glucose uptake. So your muscles are going to not take as much glucose up, right? Glucose being, again, primary fuel for your muscles. And they're going to increase protein degradation. So cortisol increases the degradation of the proteins in your muscle. Very, very, very important. Cortisol, say it one more time, cortisol increases the degradation of the proteins in your muscle. And the point of that is then because you can take those proteins and you can convert those into energy. So it's trying to get emergency energy by breaking down your muscles, And obviously a little bit of this is no problem. There's a normal amount of cortisol and muscle breakdown that you have with any kind of strength training or exercise. That's a normal amount. We're talking again about excessive amounts of muscle breakdown, right? Your body is actually trying to break the muscles down into their constituent amino acids to then use that for emergency energy. So your body's going to shift and it's going to actually use less glucose for energy and it's going to use more amino acids liberated from the muscles that it's robbing. So again, remember, we're talking today about ashwagandha, cortisol, and muscle strength. So this is the connection. Obviously, we already know that ashwagandha is one of the best adaptogens out there for supporting healthy cortisol levels, right? So now we have a physiological explanation for how ashwagandha, what we'll get to in this study here, is able to support healthy muscle performance, basically, muscle strength. One of the mechanisms. I'm sure there are others, but one of the mechanisms, right? So if a person has an excess amount of cortisol in their blood, then it certainly is possible that they are at a bit of a disadvantage when it comes to muscle performance and putting on muscle to, anabolic states. It's really interesting too, cortisol has a tendency to decrease insulin as well. So again, as maybe you guys know, maybe you guys don't, but insulin is the thing that makes sure that, here's your cell, here's the blood, here's the glucose floating around in the blood, make sure that the glucose gets into the cell where it can then be converted to ATP, to energy that the cell recognizes, right? So just remember that very, very important to have glucose where it's supposed to be, which is a fair amount of it getting inside the cell and not too much of it floating outside the cell where it's causing damage to the tissues, right? We want that glucose to actually be available to get into the cell. Cortisol tends to interrupt that process. So again, cortisol levels are higher, that's going to inhibit your body's ability to get enough glucose into the cell, and it's going to also switch you over from using glucose to using amino acids that are being robbed from your muscles. So onto this. Here's the study. Remember, this study was done on Sensoril, the exact patented extract that we use. It was 500 milligrams, and our product is 600 milligrams, just to make sure that we're matching the research and then some. And just FYI, just so y'all know, as I've mentioned in the last couple of videos, this is the strongest of this type of ashwagandha available anywhere. No other manufacturer uses a 600 milligram dose. I think there's only a few that even use 500 milligrams. A lot of them are using as low as 250 or 125 twice a day. We decided to use 600 milligrams just to make sure that this stuff works. So this is the strongest organic Sensoril you can find anywhere on the market. All right, so what is the name of this article right here? This is Effects of an Aqueous Extract, that just means water extract, of Withania somnifera, ashwagandha, on strength training, adaptations, and recovery, the STAR trial. Okay, so what do we have here? Okay, so they took healthy male volunteers who are recreationally active, who actually do sports and things like that. Obviously, randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled studies, so, gold standard, right? Let's see, 19 people in each group. They did a bunch of different tests on them. They did a body composition scan. They did muscular strength. They did a cycling trial. And then they also did some blood work, things like that. They did this for 12 weeks. And remember, this is 500 milligrams per day, right? And the chalk product that we developed was 600 milligrams per day. And they made sure they didn't take a whole bunch of other supplements or anything like that to confound it, obviously. And they had them work out 4 times a week, 2 days upper body, 2 days lower body, or 50-50 split between upper body and lower body. They gave them various different tests. Let's see here. So some of the main ones that changed, actually, the biggest gains were in squat, bench press, perceived recovery, and then the cycling tests. Yeah. They also did find some benefits to body composition as well, in terms of what they called android to gynoid ratio of different types of body fat distribution in the body. That was not a huge change, but they did find a change there. So let's see here. Where are our results? All right. Okay, body composition, body fat, there we go. Here we go, exercise performance. Here's one. So this is a squat test, basically. I don't know how many of you guys do squats, but obviously, if you want to put on muscle mass, they're kind of a big deal. What we've got right here this is week 0, and this is week 12. Week 0, week 12. The black bar right there, and again, remember this is squats. This is basically the maximum weight you can do in one squat. So they're trying to do a max weight, right? What's the heaviest you can possibly squat? So black bar is going to be your ashwagandha. Your white bar is going to be your your placebo, right? Okay, so after 12 weeks, they noticed a significant increase right here in the maximum squat and a relatively small, insignificant increase in the maximum squat for the placebo group. All right. So is this because of the changes in cortisol? Again, I think that's probably got to be part of it. Another thing that's really important to know is cortisol and testosterone tend to have an inverse relationship. There's a really cool blog article at chalk.com/blog. You can check it out. It's called The Many Faces of Testosterone that I wrote a while back, and it goes into some of this. Very important to know that when your cortisol levels are too high, that tends to interrupt healthy testosterone levels. So you kind of want to basically get those in order. So lower your cortisol and the higher testosterone, the better you're going to do on a lot of this stuff. But yeah, that one is called, again, The Many Faces of Testosterone. Very, very cool blog article. All right. So somebody says, I don't need results on paper. I see the results myself. Well, that's awesome. That's super awesome. I'm glad you're liking it. Yeah. Well, for those of you guys who do like the research, we've got that too. But of course, there's no substitute for your own personal experience, right? And let's see what else. So yeah, there's the squat one, there's that one. And then there's also, also a significant increase in bench press, like I said. And then they also did a cycling test, 7.5 kilometer cycling time trial performance. So they basically tried to see how quickly you could bike 7.5 kilometers, which, what is that, like 3 miles? I don't know, something like that. And that was a significant increase as well. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. Do you guys do this kind of stuff? I'm just curious, you know. Yes, actually, to answer your question, ashwagandha does help with cortisol levels. It is shown to improve cortisol, absolutely, to support healthy cortisol levels. It can reduce cortisol, for sure, yeah. Somebody's asking what time to take it. The time does not seem that important as far as I can tell. In this particular trial, they did take it in the mornings, so you could do that if you wanted to. But yeah, whenever you really want to. We recommend that ours is taken actually in the evenings if you do want to basically enhance your chill a little bit. Because again, for those who are dealing with excess cortisol levels, cortisol has this circadian rhythm where it's supposed to be higher in the mornings and it's supposed to then go down in the evenings. But for a lot of people, it's not doing that. And it's too high in the evenings, right? It's higher than it should be in the evenings. So if you feel like maybe you are one of those folks who may not have the best relationship with stress and perhaps there is an issue with cortisol, we're basically at this point recommending, and what it says on the bottle, we're recommending that you take it in the evening, but that certainly is totally optional. Whenever you want to take it is perfectly fine. It's just a once a day. It's less about taking it at the perfect time of day and more about taking it consistently every single day for a while. When you take an adaptogen like this consistently every day, after several weeks, that's when it's going to have really profound effects, or maybe even after a couple of weeks or so. In general, we recommend 90 days for a lot of this stuff. That especially is true of Shilajit based on some of the research where they showed if you're looking for healthy testosterone levels, Shilajit at 90 days has shown, we have 1 or 2 clinical studies showing that 90 days is pretty profound results for healthy testosterone levels. But really with anything, 2 or 3 months is a really good down payment if you're trying to get big results in your overall quality of life and your ability to put on muscle and your healthy mood, healthy focus, healthy energy levels, healthy relationship to stress, all that kind of stuff, So yeah. And a lot of people also do ask me about cycling. Sure, it's not a bad idea to cycle off a few days a month if you want. What I recommend is what you could do with a lot of our products is you could take 3 or 4 days off a month. That gives you an extra 3 or 4 capsules, and then on certain days when you really need an extra boost, you can, potentially on some of these products you could do a little bit more. Depends on the product, of course, but in certain cases you can do that. Okay, let's see what else we got here. Is chalk actually that good? Well, check out our reviews. Try it for yourself. See what you think. A lot of people like it. All right, let's see here. What else? Tomcat 100 during the day to build and ashwagandha in the evening to relax. That could work, absolutely. You could take them together if you wanted to as well. But yeah, that could certainly work. Absolutely. And Tomcat and ashwagandha, they do have a lot in common in certain respects. They are both good for healthy testosterone levels. I would say that the Tomcat is a little stronger for that as far as I can tell. They're both good for cortisol support, but I would say in that case, the ashwagandha is going to shine a little bit more as far as I can tell versus the Tomcat. They are both whole body adaptogens. They're both really fantastic for a number of different things. I would say it does seem like the ashwagandha seems to be a little bit better when it comes to focus, however, and mood. Although the Tomcat can help with that as well. But at least, especially from a research standpoint, and I would also say from my personal experience, the Tomcat may not be as potent for healthy mood, perhaps. And I'll also say that for women, ashwagandha seems to work really well. Women can also take Tomcat, but just in my experience, women seem to have a really good, a lot of the time, pretty profound effects from ashwagandha. So if you're a female and you're trying to pick one or the other, you can certainly take both, but if you're picking one or the other, I might suggest ashwagandha for women. Yeah. Also, for women, Shilajit is fantastic because, of course, for both men and women, it supports healthy hormones. But a lot of women are, of course, interested in collagen production, and the Shilajit does help to activate collagen-producing genes. So, yeah. Let's see here. All right. My nose always itches when I do these for some reason. All right. What else we got here? Yeah, and by the way, somebody's just talking about budgeting. Yeah, I mean, we've got these 50% off coupon codes that we're giving out, pretty much 24/7. So really, this is pretty darn affordable. $35 subscription before discount, $17.50 a month at that point. So very, very affordable. If you think about it, that's like 3 or 4 coffee drinks at the coffee bar, depending on how fancy you get it and what the tax and tip is. But, maybe only 2 drinks for some people if you get one of these $8 deals, So very, very affordable, and the kind of thing where if you take it on a daily basis can be pretty fantastic. Anything else from this trial? Let's see. And yeah, I mean, what do you guys think? Are you guys digging going into all the research? Do you not care? I'm down to do whatever you guys find is helpful and interesting. I think the studies are pretty cool. Some of these studies we can't legally show you because they talk about certain things that are kind of, disease oriented and stuff like that. So obviously I can't tell you every single study that's on here, but I do share the ones that are totally legit as far as our scope of what we're allowed to do as a supplements company. Yeah. Let's see here. Loving the research. Cool. Divine Cosmic Being. Awesome. How much Shilajit can I consume? We just recommend standard doses. Totally fine. You can get the daily case. I literally get jittery off of small amounts of sugar. Okay. Yeah, and if you are sensitive to herbs, and you're, wanting to take it easy, you can always just get 1 or 2 chalk products right off the bat. Do that for a couple months and see how it goes, Some people need a lot more support than others. Some people need to do a full stack. Other people, just a little dab will do you. So it really just depends on where you're at. Some people are very sensitive to herbs. People have different body weights, so it's really just totally up to you. Somebody's asking about Irish moss and if you can take 5 capsules a day. Irish moss is, yeah, absolutely. You can take as much as you want Irish moss, really. It's just a food. It's not like a super high potency herbal extract like some of these other things that we have. So there isn't really a hard limit on how much moss you can do. There's some products out there that are just like a whole powder where they, will dose you pretty hard on it. So yeah, 5 capsules of Irish moss is really not a big deal. Again, it's really just a superfood, not like ultra high potency herbal extract adaptogen per se, although it is great, but it's not going to have that same hard upper limit to how you dose it. So totally fine on that one. All right. Irish moss is great for minerals, blah, blah, blah. I take Shilajit and Armor at night. Very cool. Nice. Shilajit and Armor. Yeah, Armor is great. A lot of people don't realize how awesome Armor is because, we have a lot of products that make you feel great, give you a lot of energy, things like that, help your mood and focus. Armor, isn't as much fun as some of these other supplements. But if you're looking for daily immune support, inflammation response, and then you want a little bit of something to also kind of help you with focus and chill, because there's a little bit of that in there too, Armor is really great. And speaking of things like exercise, Armor can be used for post-workout recovery. Again, Armor is not just about supporting the immune system, but also about supporting a healthy inflammation response. And by the way, just in general, so you guys know, when you support a healthy immune system, by definition, a lot of the time, you are also supporting healthy inflammation response because of that dynamic between the microbiome of the whole body, all the different microorganisms that exist throughout your whole body, and the immune system. And when the immune system is functioning better, you tend to have a better inflammation response. Yeah. All right. Let's see what else we got here. Taking ashwagandha powder in smoothies. It's not the best tasting herb. It's kind of not great. So I wouldn't, I mean, if you want to do that, that's fine. But for the average person, I would not recommend putting ashwagandha in smoothies. It might ruin the flavor of your smoothie. Again, different extracts have different flavors, but in general, ashwagandha does not taste all that great. So not going to be your best smoothie additive, yeah. All right, what else we got here? Oh yeah, somebody's asking about the histamine effect in Armor. Yeah, that's another really cool thing that people don't realize. So the chief ingredient in Armor is a very rare to find special 20x absorption quercetin from Italy. Quercetin, and if you want to go on our blog, chalk.com/blog, check it out. Type in quercetin in the search there. You'll find I did an article a while back on quercetin, master bioflavonoid. Quercetin is amazing. It's one of the best compounds out there to support healthy histamine levels. And long story short, it has the ability to drastically support your well-being if you're one of those people who needs support in this area. But this particular one has a 20x absorption. So quercetin is great, but it doesn't absorb all that well. This one is blended with sunflower lecithin. We would never use soy, of course. Sunflower lecithin in a special way. It is a patented formulation called a phytosome. And the studies actually show that it absorbs 20 times as well as regular quercetin. So 500 milligram dose that's in Armor is the equivalent of taking 10,000 milligrams of a regular quercetin. So yeah, if you're one of those people who needs extra histamine support, Armor is potentially your best friend. It's fantastic. Really, really good for histamine support. And histamine, you know, I also have a really cool article on histamine on the blog too. Go to chalk.com/blog, type in histamine. I've got an article that talks all about histamine. Histamine is actually a neurotransmitter. It has huge effects in the brain. It can have effects on the digestive system. So anyway, histamine is a really interesting, and it's a lot more complex than you think. So if you want to do a deep dive on histamine, check out that blog article. Just type in histamine into the search function, yeah. So soy can be problematic for a lot of different reasons. There's mixed research on whether soy is really all that bad for you hormonally. Some of the compounds seem to be, you know, estrogenic in a bad way. Other ones might be estrogenic in actually a good way, where they're blocking some of the other bad ones. But one of the main problems with soy is that unless it's organic, it's virtually guaranteed to be genetically modified and covered in pesticides. And even if it is certified organic and non-GMO, because there's so much GMO soy, you can get stuff floating in from other crops and still contaminating it. So it may not be a 100% safe bet. So, you know, buyer beware on that. Anyway, I actually have to run. I have an appointment here to see a friend. So I'm going to jet for now, but we will be talking more about ashwagandha, cortisol, focus, muscle building, hormone health, all that stuff next week. So tune in. I will be here next Monday. And if you have any questions, don't forget, you can also holler at me on our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube, check out any of our videos, hit the like, subscribe button, and then just leave a comment below that says, "Hey, Dr. Matt," or you can also say, hey, Choctor if you want. That's my other silly nickname, Choctor, the Choctor. So, all right. See you guys very soon. Thanks for tuning in, and stay human.